benefit of this agency agreement, right? So buyers, agents, and buyers will have a compensation, a buyer-broker agreement now. So, and in that agreement, it establishes agency. I am representing you, Mr. Buyer. I'm going to represent you, and fulfill my fiduciary responsibilities in this agency. I'm committed to you. You're committed to me.
Right.
We're going to make this thing happen. However, I think one of the challenges is because, going back to what I said, the onus is falling on the buyers to pay the buyer's agent's compensation if indeed the listing broker or the seller doesn't offer it, right?
Right.
So I feel like that's going to create some issues with buyers going to say, well, you know what, I can't afford to pay you, so I'm just going to go directly with the seller, which then puts you in almost what we call in Arizona, it's called dual agency, or actually the correct verbiage is limited representation.
Yeah, you missed a word too. Consented. Limited.
Well, consented, yeah, because both parties have to agree to it. The buyer and seller have to agree that they're going to hire you to represent each party. So it's a limited representation. We're, I think, one of only 13 states that still allow it. How do you explain that to your buyer and seller?
Try to explain it in this way, is that when you look at a football game, both teams are opposing each other, and the coach's job is to win the game for that team. I'm your coach. I'm here to win. I'm going to do all the stuff that's required to win, all the game planning, the strategies, and everything it takes you to win the game for the buyer.
That's your agency, right? You're representing the buyer. You're the coach. You're calling the plays, the shots. You're there for the support and all that stuff.
Correct.
And then so if that's representing the buyer, and it's the same if you're representing the seller. You're the coach. All right. What happens when it comes to limited consent to limited representation?
Well, the best way to explain it is that there's a third party involved in the football game. And that's the referees.
Referees, yeah.
And the referees don't make decisions that come down to who wins the game, who doesn't win the game.
Well, some referees do.
It depends, It depends on which game you're looking at. But their job is to interpret the rules, to just manage the game. Mediate it. So the buyer and seller has to go, we're cool with limited representation. Why do you think they have to be limited? Well, you can't be loyal to both seller and buyer. They have opposing viewpoints. One wants it cheaper, one wants more money, right? But they both want to sell the house or buy the house. But you can't be loyal to both of them at the same time. And they both could give you instructions that you couldn't obey.
In essence, if you're representing a seller and you have a buyer and they show up to your open house and they want to buy the house, and both buyer and seller agree that it's okay for you, the coach, to represent both of them.
Right.
But you can't advocate for the buyer and the seller in that scenario.
Correct.
Right. And that's why it's called limited representation. So now, going to your football analogy, we are no longer the coach. Right. If you're a buyer and you come to me in my open house and I'm the listing agent and you want to make an offer and you want me to represent you and the seller's okay with representing both parties, I am no longer a coach. I am now just a referee.
The way I've done it before is, and people actually hate this, is, the buyer goes, what do you think I should offer on this house?
Right.
Go, I don't know. Here's the comps. What do you think? They say, well, we want to offer A, B, and C. Do you think that's good? I don't know. I'll present it to the seller. And then the seller's coming back. What do you think? Is that, we think we want to counter here. Think that's a good idea? I don't know. What do you want to do? I have to be neutral.
I've done dual agent limited representation as well. And I just feel like it goes against the very grain or nature of a realtor. Right?
100%.
Because we're an advocate for our clients, whether we're representing the buyer or the seller. We're going to get them the best possible price under the best terms. But when we become in dual agency, limited representation, when our buyers are saying, hey, Jerry, what should we offer? And you can't advocate. You can't suggest a price to them. You can just give them comps, and now they got to make the decision on their own behalf. So you get an offer, you make it, and you send it to the seller, and the seller says, well, Jerry, what should we counter? What should we do? And what do you say?
Well, I can't advise over the other party. We're neutral. We're refs.
So you're no longer an advocate, which goes back to what I said. I feel like when we're doing dual agency, limited representation, we are in essence, going against our innate behavior as a realtor, and that's to be an advocate for our client.